According to established wizarding law, Avada Kedavra is supposed to be foolproof. One flash of green light, one life ended, no exceptions, no survivors, no loopholes. The ministry classifies it as unforgivable, specifically because there's no known counter curse and no recorded case of anyone blocking it with a shield charm. The entire reputation of the killing curse rests on this absolute certainty. If it hits you, you're dead. Casting it requires genuine, murderous intent and considerable magical power, which means you can't accidentally kill someone with a half-hearted attempt. The caster has to truly mean it, or the spell simply fizzles out. That's the theory anyway. Reality, as it turns out, is significantly messier. The boy who didn't die. Voldemort's attack on infant Harry Potter in 1981 represents the first recorded instance of someone surviving a direct hit from Avada Kedavra. Instead, it rebounded onto Voldemort himself, vaporizing his body and leaving him less than a ghost. The reason has nothing to do with Harry being special, and everything to do with Lily Potter making an extremely specific type of magical sacrifice. Voldemort had explicitly offered to spare her life if she stepped aside, and she refused. This detail matters more than it initially seems. James Potter didn't create the same protection for Lily because Voldemort was never going to spare him. There was no choice offered, no opportunity for sacrifice. But Lily had an out, a chance to save herself, and she deliberately rejected it. That willing choice to die in place of her child activated ancient magic that Voldemort either didn't know existed or assumed was theoretical. When the curse hit Harry and failed, it left physical evidence of its failure, a lightning bolt scar on his forehead. This wasn't a wound in the traditional sense, but a mark left by deflected dark magic of extraordinary power. The rebound also had an unintended side effect that wouldn't be discovered for years. A fragment of Voldemort's soul tore loose and latched onto Harry, accidentally turning him into a seventh Horcrux. Dumbledore later sealed the protection by arranging for Harry to live with Petunia Dursley, Lily's sister. As long as Harry called his blood relative's house home, Lily's enchantment remained active. This is the only documented case of Avada Kedavra failing due to love-based protective magic rather than wand interference or technical malfunction. The forest, the wand, and the soul fragment. Harry's second brush with Avada Kedavra happens in the Forbidden Forest during the final battle, and this one's significantly more complicated than a simple love shield rebound. Voldemort casts the curse at point-blank range on a willing, unresisting target, and Harry still doesn't die. 3 separate magical mechanisms converge to save him, each one breaking a different aspect of how the killing curse is supposed to work. First, the spell successfully destroys the Horcrux fragment living inside Harry, which means it technically did kill something, just not Harry himself. When Voldemort made his attempt on baby Harry back in Godric's Hollow, his soul was already so unstable from creating multiple Horcruxes that the rebounded curse caused a piece to break off and latch onto the only living thing in the room, Harry. For nearly 17 years, Harry carried a fragment of Voldemort's soul without anyone realizing it. The Avada Kedavra cast in the forest targeted that fragment specifically, obliterating it while leaving Harry's own soul intact. Second, Voldemort is wielding the Elder Wand, which refuses to properly execute its true master. And thanks to a chain of disarmaments involving Draco Malfoy, that master is Harry, not Voldemort. The wand's allegiance doesn't transfer through murder in this case. It transferred when Draco disarmed Dumbledore on the Astronomy Tower, and then again when Harry physically overpowered Draco at Malfoy Manor. Voldemort never realized that killing Snape was pointless because Snape had never been the wand's master. The Elder Wand recognizes Harry as its rightful owner and appears to sabotage or weaken the curse's full lethal potential when forced to attack him. Third, when Voldemort used Harry's blood to regenerate his body back in the graveyard ritual during Goblet of Fire, he accidentally anchored Lily's sacrificial protection to his own life, creating a bizarre tether that keeps Harry alive as long as Voldemort exists. Dumbledore's gleam of triumph upon hearing about the blood ritual was because he understood what Voldemort had done. He'd tied Harry's life force to his own survival. As long as Voldemort lived, Harry couldn't truly die. The result is Harry experiencing a near-death state where he consciously chooses to return to life, which shouldn't be physically possible after taking a direct killing curse. He meets Dumbledore in what appears to be King's Cross Station, discusses his options, and decides to go back. No other person in recorded magical history has remained conscious enough after being hit by Avada Kedavra to make that choice. When twin wands lock. During the graveyard duel in Goblet of Fire, Voldemort fires Avada Kedavra at Harry and the spell never reaches its target. Instead, the two wands, both containing a feather from Fawkes the Phoenix, Connect and trigger Priori Incantatem, a rare effect that forces the wands into a magical stalemate. The killing curse hangs suspended in midair as a golden thread, completely neutralized by the wand connection. The curse that's supposed to hit its target with no possibility of interception is instead frozen midcast, held in place by nothing more than matching wand cores. The phenomenon creates a cage of golden light around both casters, and neither can break free without releasing their wand. What makes this particularly unusual is that Avada Kedavra isn't merely blocked or deflected. It's trapped in a state of suspension, neither completed nor cancelled. Rather than killing Harry, Voldemort's wand begins regurgitating echoes of its previous spells in reverse order: Cedric Diggory, then Frank Bryce, then Bertha Jorkins, and finally James and Lily Potter. These aren't true ghosts or spirits, but magical imprints of the wand's most recent victims, forced out by the Priori Incantatem effect. When Voldemort refused to use it. At the boathouse in Deathly Hallows, Voldemort needs Severus Snape dead, but instead of using his signature spell, he has Nagini do the killing. This isn't mercy or sentimentality, it's calculated doubt about whether Avada Kedavra would work the way he needs it to. Voldemort believes Snape is the Elder Wand's master after killing Dumbledore, and he's convinced that to claim the wand's allegiance, the previous master must die. But he also seems uncertain whether a killing curse would properly sever that magical bond, so he opts for a snake bite instead. This choice reveals Voldemort's growing paranoia about the Elder Wand's behavior and his incomplete understanding of how wand allegiance actually transfers. He spent his entire adult life relying on Avada Kedavra as his weapon of choice. Yet when it matters most, when he needs to secure the most powerful wand in existence, he doesn't trust it to do the job correctly. The irony is thick. The most prolific user of Avada Kedavra in modern wizarding history doesn't trust it to function correctly when wand ownership is involved. His decision to use Nagini instead suggests he believes that a more indirect, non-magical method of death, the curse doesn't fail here. Voldemort simply refuses to test it. His hesitation reveals that even he recognizes the spell has limitations in situations involving complex magical allegiances. The tragic absurdity is that his entire theory was wrong from the start. Snape was never the Elder Wand's master because Draco Malfoy had disarmed Dumbledore before Snape killed him. Voldemort ordered a needlessly cruel death based on a fundamental misunderstanding of wand lore, while simultaneously demonstrating that he knew Avada Kedavra wasn't foolproof in all circumstances. Cinematic betrayals of canon. The Fantastic Beasts films treat Avada Kedavra less like an instant death sentence and more like a slow-moving projectile that characters can casually dodge. When Grindelwald kills Leta Lestrange in Crimes of Grindelwald, the spell visibly travels through the air as a beam of green energy, giving everyone time to react. The curse moves at roughly the speed of a hurled object rather than the instantaneous flash described in the books. Characters literally watch it approach and have several seconds to process what's happening before impact. The Secrets of Dumbledore doubles down on this, showing the curse lifting an Auror into the air before killing him, a dramatic flourish that directly contradicts the instant death, no injury rule established in the books. In the original series, victims of Avada Kedavra simply drop dead where they stand with no visible trauma, no theatrical levitation, and no delay between impact and death. The film version adds slow-motion sequences, visible energy trails, and impact physics that belong in superhero movies, not the Harry Potter universe. These aren't subtle differences, they're fundamental changes to how the magic works, introduced purely for action movie pacing and visual spectacle. The alterations allow for dramatic dodging sequences, last-second saves, and choreographed spell battles that would be impossible if the curse functioned as described in canon. No in-universe explanation is offered, and no characters comment on the curse behaving strangely. Nobody asks why the supposedly unblockable killing curse is suddenly moving slow enough to sidestep, or why it's physically throwing people around instead of simply ending their lives. From a lore perspective, these moments are best categorized as filmmakers prioritizing drama over magical consistency. The visual language of cinema demands visible threats and reactive action, which doesn't align well with a spell that kills instantly without warning or spectacle. But the cost is undermining one of the most terrifying aspects of Avada Kedavra in the books: its absolute unavoidable finality. The Ministry's water trick. During the Dumbledore-Voldemort duel in Order of the Phoenix, the film shows Voldemort casting Avada Kedavra at Dumbledore, who appears to block it using a stream of conjured water. The green light is unmistakable, the intent is clearly lethal, and yet Dumbledore's water somehow intercepts and neutralizes it mid-flight. This scene has sparked years of fan debate because it shouldn't be possible. there's no canonical evidence that elemental magic can neutralize a killing curse mid-flight. The books are explicit about what can and cannot stop Avada Kedavra. Physical objects can block it. Diving behind a statue or a tombstone works perfectly fine. But conjured or transfigured matter is still magical in nature, and the established rule is that the killing curse cannot be stopped by magical shields or barriers. Protego doesn't work, solid magical shields don't work, and by extension, magically conjured water shouldn't work either. The film creates a loophole that doesn't exist in the source material, essentially treating water as a physical object rather than a magical construct. Official film materials confirm it was meant to be Avada Kedavra, not some other green-colored spell. This removes any ambiguity. The filmmakers genuinely depicted the killing curse being blocked by elemental magic. The result is a direct contradiction of one of the most ironclad rules in the Harry Potter universe. The killing curse cannot be blocked by spells or conjured objects. Some fans have tried to rationalize it by suggesting Dumbledore has access to obscure defensive techniques unknown to other wizards, or that the water wasn't blocking the spell but redirecting it. But these are fan theories attempting to patch a hole that the film itself doesn't acknowledge or explain. It's pure cinematic liberty, sacrificing lore accuracy for a visually impressive wizard duel that audiences would remember. The scene prioritizes spectacle over consistency, which works for general audiences but creates headaches for anyone trying to understand the actual rules of magic in this universe. What Avada Kedavra can't kill. The Room of Requirement sequence in Deathly Hallows doesn't feature the killing curse directly, but it establishes a crucial limitation. Avada Kedavra is useless against Horcruxes. While the curse instantly ends human life, it can't destroy objects protected by soul-binding dark magic. The trio enters the room searching for Ravenclaw's diadem, one of Voldemort's remaining Horcruxes, and encounters Draco Malfoy, Gregory Goyle, and Vincent Crabbe in a confrontation that quickly spirals out of control. Crabbe casts Fiendfire in a desperate attempt to kill Harry, Ron, and Hermione. This cursed fire is notoriously difficult to control. It takes the form of living serpents and beasts made of flame that consume everything in their path indiscriminately. The spell is so dangerous that even experienced dark wizards avoid it, and Crabbe clearly has no idea how to contain what he's unleashed. The fire transforms the Room of Requirement into an inferno, destroying centuries of hidden objects in minutes. Fiendfire succeeds where the killing curse would fail, completely incinerating Ravenclaw's diadem and the soul fragment inside. Horcruxes require destruction so complete that the container is damaged beyond magical repair. Basilisk venom, Fiendfire, and other substances of extreme destructive power. Avada Kedavra, for all its lethality against living targets, simply isn't designed to obliterate physical objects or break through the protective enchantments surrounding soul vessels. This highlights that for all its feared reputation, Avada Kedavra isn't the most powerful magic in every situation. It's hyper-specialized, unmatched at ending life, but completely ineffective outside that narrow purpose. Chaotic, uncontrollable forces like Fiendfire can outclass it in raw destructive capability. The curse that terrifies the entire wizarding world is rendered completely irrelevant when the target isn't a living being. Crabbe's own Fiendfire kills him moments later, proving that some dark magic is far more dangerous than even the unforgivable curses. The mercy kill that shouldn't have worked. When Snape kills Dumbledore from the Astronomy Tower in Half-Blood Prince, the curse functions exactly as designed: green flash, instant death, body thrown backward. What makes this moment lore-breaking isn't the spell's behavior, but the emotional state of the caster. The scene is set up with Draco Malfoy already on the tower, wand pointed at a weakened and wandless Dumbledore, completely unable to go through with the killing. Death Eaters arrive as backup, but before any of them can act, Snape appears. Dumbledore's plea of "Severus, please," is interpreted by everyone present as begging for his life, but it's actually a command, a reminder of their pact. During the Unforgivable Curses lesson in Goblet of Fire, students are explicitly told that Avada Kedavra requires genuine intent and power behind it. You've got to mean it. The implication throughout the series is that this meaning it requires hatred, rage, or at minimum, genuine desire to cause death. Mad-Eye Moody, actually Barty Crouch Jr., tells the class that all of them could point their wands at him and say the words, and he doubts he'd get so much as a nosebleed. The spell demands emotional weight, or so the conventional wisdom goes. Yet Snape casts the spell not out of hatred, rage, or cruelty, but as part of a prearranged pact with Dumbledore himself. The plan was designed to spare Draco Malfoy from committing murder and fracturing his soul, and to preserve Snape's cover as a double agent within Voldemort's inner circle. Dumbledore was already dying from the curse on Marvolo Gaunt's ring and had perhaps a year to live at most. The mercy kill would spare him a painful deterioration and ensure the Elder Wand's power died with him, or so they believed. Despite this cold, calculated context and the complete absence of malice, the curse works flawlessly. Snape's face shows revulsion and hatred in the moment, but that's directed at the act itself, not at Dumbledore. This expands the understood requirements for casting Avada Kedavra considerably. It proves that meaning it doesn't require emotional fury or sadistic pleasure, it only requires unwavering commitment to ending a life, even if that commitment is born from duty rather than desire. The spell cares about intent, not emotion. Snape fully intended to end Dumbledore's life in that moment, and his magical ability was more than sufficient to execute the curse. The fact that he was doing it reluctantly, as an act of loyalty and mercy rather than malice, apparently made no difference to the magic itself. This raises uncomfortable questions about the moral framework around unforgivable curses. If intent to kill is sufficient regardless of motive, then the emotional component emphasized in earlier books may be more about overcoming psychological barriers than actual magical requirements. If breaking down the killing curse didn't finish you off, dive into more forbidden magic and hidden lore on the channel. Your next obsession is just a click away. Mischief managed.